Welcome to Vancouver Carpenter. Today I'm going to show you guys how I like to use a paintbrush and a whole lot of basic tips and tricks for keeping your paintbrush in good shape and getting the stuff on the wall. Now there's going to be a lot of different methods. Basically, as many people as there are that use a paintbrush are going to have their own different things. Feel free to leave those in the comments, but today I'm just going to be showing you how I like to do it. So first things first, you want to have a good quality brush. I find Purdy's to be pretty decent. I look for ones that are a little bit thicker here instead of thin because they'll hold more paint. This one's a stiff. I don't get too fussed about whether they're stiff or soft. They have different uses. We're not going to get into that in this video, but first things first, wet your brush. Especially if you're using water-based paint, actually only if you're using water-based paint. But the reason you do that is it stops the paint from hardening on your bristles further down. So it's gonna extend the life of your brush. Anyways, let's get to actually painting. Now we're gonna do some totally unnecessary painting in this room. The next biggest mistake that people make is they use a full can of paint. Like honestly, you wanna be up on a ladder holding a full can of paint. Now I have a friend who is a carpenter, and carpenters are kind of dumb when it comes to painting, and he had a full can of paint up on a ladder over somebody's balcony with no drop sheet, and he dropped that thing all over himself, all into his brand new tool belt, all over the balcony down below. Actually, it was pavers. It was stone pavers. So he spent his night washing off the patio. So yes, use a cut can, even if you have to buy an extra can from the paint store, or you could use a yogurt cup, anything. So I only have about this much paint in here. And that's as much as I like to comfortably carry. So next, let's get into how to hold a paint can. What I like to do is I like to slip my thumb under here and hold the can like this. And it makes it quite comfortable. Really quickly before we get into cutting in, I'm also a big fan of these things. I love them. They come with a reusable liner. I use these for a long time. And sometimes I'll even peel the paint out of those and reuse them again. So like a pack of these can last me like a year. I also find this way more comfortable than the paint can. You know, it's really nice. It just sits there so nicely. And the other thing that I love is they have a magnet right here. So your paintbrush can just sit right there. I'm going to put a link to them in the description below if you guys are interested in finding them. But now back to cutting with the trusty can. Okay, the next biggest mistake that people do, and I did this one when I was brand new to painting, is so they get their paint on their brush and they start trying to cut in like this. Oh, it's so difficult. I can't go very far. So you can really only get about 10 inches to a foot before it stops leaving a nice line. And that's frustrating. And then we gotta clean up this edge, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so how do you cut? We had to turn the light off real quick. Okay, so the proper way to cut in, at least the way I do it, I actually like to wipe both sides of the brush off because I find I have more control when I'm not focusing on the paint dripping off the brush. So then what you do is you hold your brush like this, not like this. And you find your line like so. And it takes a little practice to get nice and steady, but that's it. And then I'll come back and I like to quickly brush that in real quick just to make rolling easier. Okay, let's show that cut real quickly one more time. So again, I quickly wipe that off, and then I'll start from here. I find my line, and then get moving. Fast makes smooth, but it takes time to get that. Don't forget to mash the cord. It's okay, this bench won't conduct. I'll be all right. All right, so another huge painting mistake that I see all the time. All right, so let's really inexperiencedly mash this paint up here. Oh, I'm gonna get it on the ceiling and be all dumb. Okay, so the next thing that people do, and I see this all the time, is you will see a hard line running down the wall, like all the way down the wall. That's the width of a paintbrush. And so what people are doing here is they're putting the paint on, and then they're not feathering this edge. So it's like drywall. You gotta feather that edge. So all you have to do is just quickly pass over it. And that quick pass makes that so it's not visible. You now can't see that hard edge. But I see this all the time in amateur paint jobs. You see that you know, well, whatever width their brush was, it's all the way around the room, and that's super annoying. Okay, so let's say you don't have to cut in. So how I like to paint something like this, let's say I'm priming something where it's all gonna get the same color. So in this case, I don't have to go very slow, and I don't need to wipe off both sides of my brush because I'm able to move a lot faster in this case. So what I will do in this case is I leave it real heavy, you know, as much as I can handle. And I just spread the stuff down the wall. And here's how that works, is as I was moving the brush, I was tilting it forward. And why that works is the paint gets wiped off the edge first, and as you turn your brush, it's finding a new edge of fresh paint the whole way. So, but don't leave it just like that, because now you've got that hard edge. You were fast, but it looks like garbage. So don't forget to feather that edge. That's what I was trying to say. And now before I walk away from this spot, I'm even gonna paint the ceiling too, because both sides are wet. And so you can make some nice progress like this. Feather my edge, make sure there's no drips, and then I'll get into the corner next. So there's another thing that I didn't get into, and that's also thinking about how much material you have on your brush and where you want to put it on the wall. So let's get into that. All right, so do I need to start at the top with a big full paintbrush? Probably not. So if I'm going to spread this stuff consistently, I'm actually probably going to start down here a bit. And now when I come back up, this paint right here is really heavy because that's where I started. So I can actually like come back up with that paint and then get right into that corner, cut that line. Make sure I don't leave anything heavy. And that's how that's done. So I'm always thinking about, you know, how far am I going to spread my paint? I'll show you guys that one more time if we have somewhere else. Okay, so here's a typical inside corner, and I'm going to show you guys how I would paint that. I'll start at the top here. And again, I'm going to start a little bit down. And then I'm going to do the other side, starting a little bit down. And I'm folding that brush down to get as much paint off it as I can. Feather my edge. And this inside's a little splarpy. So there, that's nice. Feather my edge. Oh, I splattered paint because I was moving too quick. And then down to the bottom. Again, I'm really dipping my brush this time, right? Getting as much on there as I can. Starting about right here. And then there's lots of paint down there to keep moving down into the bottom. I'm going to do the same here. Feather my edge. Make sure the inside looks crisp. Feather my edge. Make sure the inside of that one's good. And then that's done. Take a close look, camera guy. So that way you can roll around a room pretty darn quick and, you know, cut them in fast. Because, you know, don't do it slow, that's dumb. And last but not least, definitely not least, is clean your brush well. I can't tell you how many times I've been on somebody's job and I didn't have a brush to use at that moment, but I needed one just to put a bit of paint on. And I go to grab one of the homeowner's paintbrush in the garage and it's unusable. It's hard as a brick. It doesn't take long to clean brushes. It's well worth it. I mean, if you're getting a good brush, they can be, you know, $20 or $30. You may as well wash them well instead of using those garbagey brushes and turning them into bricks. Be sure to do this in the homeowner's kitchen sink. It's super important. And never wipe up any of this stuff. That's really helpful too. It lets them know you were there so they can remember you. You know, you don't want your customers forgetting you. Okay, if you don't have a brush comb and all that stuff, yeah, doing this helps. Does it pretty quick. I honestly will clean my brush out every hour or so. I really don't like my brushes getting crusty, so that's just me. Anyways, you guys, thanks for watching Vancouver Carpenter. Hope you got something useful out of this. You know, is it Vancouver Carpainter? Cool, naughty camera dude. Naughty, whatever. This video's over. I'm just talking trash now. See you guys.